You probably woke up today with a grand plan to radically change your life, but by the afternoon, you found yourself falling into the exact same routines you swore you would break. The truth is, your lack of progress isn't a failure of willpower or personal discipline. It is a hidden failure of your environment and your systems. We live in an era that worships the hustle, constantly telling us that success requires heroic self-control and brute mental force. Yet, if you look closely at the people who appear to possess superhuman discipline, you will find a surprising secret: they don't actually use their willpower all day long. Instead, they have simply designed their lives in a way that minimizes the need to constantly resist temptation. Relying entirely on raw discipline is an exhausting, losing game because it fundamentally ignores how the human brain is wired to operate. If you want to stop living on autopilot, you have to understand the silent, invisible mechanics running beneath the surface of your every decision. Deep inside your skull lies a primitive structure called the basal ganglia, an ancient cluster of tissue responsible for storing your automatic behaviors. To understand its profound power, consider the famous medical case of Eugene Pauly, a man whose medial temporal lobe was completely destroyed by a severe bout of viral encephalitis. The disease erased his conscious memory. He couldn't remember the current decade, draw a simple map of his own house, or retain new information for more than a minute. Yet, remarkably, Eugene could still navigate to the kitchen to find a jar of nuts, and he could independently walk his exact route around the neighborhood every single morning. How is this possible? Because his basal ganglia remained entirely intact. Researchers at MIT discovered exactly how this works by placing rats into a maze with a piece of chocolate at the end. At first, as the rats searched for the prize, their brains exploded with neurological activity, working furiously to process every new scent and sound. However, as the rats ran the same route hundreds of times, a fascinating shift occurred. Their brain activity dropped drastically. As the route became a habit, the rats stopped thinking almost entirely. This neurological process is called chunking, and it is the brain's brilliant way of saving mental effort. The basal ganglia takes over, creating a three-step neurological loop, a cue that triggers the brain to go into automatic mode. The routine itself, and the reward that tells your brain the pattern is worth remembering. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a good habit and a bad one, which means these automatic loops are always lurking in the background, waiting for a trigger. Because the brain is constantly looking for ways to save energy, it naturally gravitates toward the path of least resistance. Therefore, environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. You cannot successfully break a bad habit just by wishing it away. You must attack the cue. If you want to stop wasting time on social media, you must increase the friction to access it. Delete the apps, log out, or leave your phone in another room. You must make the bad habit invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. Conversely, if you want to build a positive routine, you must make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. You remove the friction so completely that doing the right thing becomes the default action. A highly effective technique for this is habit stacking. Instead of trying to invent a brand new routine out of thin air, you attach your desired behavior to an anchor, a habit you already perform unconsciously every day. You simply tell yourself, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. Or after I brush my teeth, I will write one sentence. You use the momentum of your existing life to pull your new habits forward. When we decide to change, society conditions us to expect massive cinematic breakthroughs. But attempting a dramatic life overhaul essentially triggers the amygdala, the alarm system of the brain which responds to sudden change with fear and resistance. To bypass this biological defense, we must embrace the Japanese philosophy of Kaizen, which focuses on continuous incremental improvements that are so small you barely notice them. Small steps pad softly past your fears, allowing you to create new neural pathways before the inner critic even wakes up. This was the exact strategy used by the British cycling team, who broke down every single aspect of riding a bike and aimed to improve each element by just 1%. This marginal gains approach created a contagious enthusiasm that led them to historic Olympic victories. You can apply this mathematically to your own life. If you get just 1% better every day for an entire year, those small gains compound and you end up 37 times better than when you started. This is the genius of the 2-minute rule. Whenever you start a new habit, scale it down so it takes less than 2 minutes. Do not aim to run 5 miles, simply aim to put on your running shoes. You have to establish the foundation of the habit before you can ever hope to optimize it. Do not chase perfect effort, chase perfect starts. However, simply changing your daily actions isn't enough to make results last permanently. True behavior change is actually identity change. If your internal self-image remains the same, your habits will eventually snap back to match it. Every time you perform a small habit, you are not just getting a task done, you are casting a vote for the type of person you wish to become. To solidify this new identity, you must train your mind to shift away from the anxious, reactive monkey mind and develop the focused, intentional monk mind. Most of us live conditioned lives, wearing false identities built entirely from the expectations of society, family, and peers. Monks strip away these external labels, living in simplicity to quiet the noise enough to finally hear their own soul. When negative thoughts arise, a monk does not suppress them. They observe them using the spot, stop, and swap method, spotting the negativity, stopping it from taking root, and swapping it with a constructive perspective. This deep mental clarity clears the path to finding your dharma, your true inner calling. Dharma lives at the intersection of your passion, your expertise, and how you can use those gifts to genuinely serve others. When you operate from a place of service rather than ego, your intention becomes pure, and you are no longer derailed by external validation or failure. Mastering yourself in a chaotic world also requires profound adaptability. In the mid-1600s, the undefeated swordsman Miyamoto Musashi isolated himself in a cave to write the Book of Five Rings, leaving behind an ultimate manual for strategy and survival. Musashi warned against becoming rigidly attached to one specific stance, weapon, or method. He advocated for what he called attitude, no attitude, the ability to remain entirely fluid, adjusting to whatever the battle demands without preconceived hesitation. In your own life, you must rationally assess your environment, identify your advantages, and utilize 100% of the tools available to you at the precise timing they are needed. A fixed mindset is a fragile mindset. You must read your environment objectively, strike at the perfect moment, and never rely on a single stubborn tactic if it is failing you. As you begin applying these principles, designing your environment, taking 1% steps, mastering your internal identity, and remaining adaptable, you will inevitably face periods where it feels like nothing is working. Imagine an ice cube sitting in a freezing room that is slowly warming up. The temperature rises degree by degree, yet the ice remains completely solid. You are sweating, you are working, you are staying consistent, but the results remain entirely invisible. Then suddenly the temperature hits 32 degrees and the ice begins to melt. That massive shift wasn't sudden. It was the direct result of all the stored energy and invisible work from the degrees that came before it. This is the plateau of latent potential. True transformation is rarely a single explosive event. It is a quiet, continuous evolution. We are conditioned to obsess over massive goals, but goals only provide temporary direction. If you truly want to rewrite your reality, you must build unbreakable daily rituals. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So stop waiting for motivation to strike. Choose one tiny habit right now. Make the cue obvious. Shrink it down to 2 minutes. Cast a single vote for the person you want to become today. Because the future belongs to those who master their systems, one small deliberate choice at a time. If you found this breakdown valuable and want to keep upgrading your mind and habits, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. With the very first 2-minute habit you are going to build today, your transformation starts right now.